All right, so today we're just going to be talking about marketing strategies when it comes to selling a property. Now, before I dive into the strategies, I just want to, make sure that I mention that these are just the strategies that go into showcasing a home, and ultimately, nobody can tell you what your home is worth. What they can tell you, or what they can try to do, is tell you what the market will bear, given the comparables that are currently on the market and what things are looking like. And then from there, it's what the market will provide, and that'll determine the value of your house. Now, what you can do and what you do have influence over is trying to find the person within the market that is willing to pay the most amount of money for your property. And that's where marketing comes in. It's all about trying to get the most exposure so that you can get the most amount of prospects interested in the home, get those prospects actually converted into some sort of lead so that we have their contact information and can try to get them through, follow up, get people through the home, get as much interest as we can in the home, get as many offers as we can so that we can try to find the person who's willing to pay the most amount of money or the best price for your property. So that's how that works. These are just the strategies that we use, myself personally, my team, and my brokerage, to make sure that we can get the best chance and give you the best odds at getting the best price for your property. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at some of the things that my team provides, some of the things that I personally provide, as well as some of the things that are advantageous about working with my brokerage. And then we'll quickly touch on what the next steps might be in terms of a roadmap for you, depending on where you're at and what you're ready for. So team marketing first. We're going to start with staging. So believe it or not, staged homes sell for up to 7% more than unstaged homes. That is a large number, and a lot of it comes down to the fact that 8 out of 10 people can't see beyond a space, meaning whatever you're showing them, whatever they see in front of them, that's how they're perceiving the space. So a vacant space, even though it may look big, they may not be able to envision the potential behind the space and how great it could look. You could have amazing floors, new trim, fresh coat of paint, nice fireplace, but they can't see what it's going to look like beyond that. And then, the reverse is true as well. If you have an oversized couch in a small space, that can really work against you as well, because it really shrinks the space and makes people, they can't see beyond the furniture then that is taking up the space. So this is where matching the furniture to the space, and obviously using things that are currently in trend, or that most people are looking for, or things that match the space, makes the big difference. And here are just a couple examples. So this is also going to showcase a little bit of photography as well. You can see here vacant space versus space that looks like it's meant to be lived in. Big difference in terms of how somebody might perceive that space. Here's one, decluttered, staged, and properly lit for photography. And we have one more here. This shows the big difference in terms of painting. While we all have a personal style, we want to make sure that personal style isn't necessarily influencing the home. We want to make sure that things are, for lack of a better term, very HGTV. What is it that the average person are looking for? We're trying to look for or accommodate the most number of people coming through the home. Again, this is about getting the most exposure, the most number of eyes, the most interest in your home, which means we need to cater to either the people that fit the space the most, or the most number of people that will be coming through the space. So you saw a couple photos there, but photography is a big thing. There's a big difference between me taking a photo with my phone and having an actual photographer come take photos, edit the photos, tweak the lighting, and do everything there. At the end of the day, 96% of people find their home online right now. And we want to make sure that we're giving you the best chance of actually having those people look at the home, be interested in the home, and come in. So things like wide angle lenses, where you capture more of the room, you can show off or showcase more of the room, more of the house, more of the yard, makes a big difference. Videos make a big difference, where you can have a drone, they can see the yard if it's nicely landscaped. A question that we often get is the age of the roof. It helps if somebody's actually able to see the roof with a drone. They can see the neighborhood if it's a nice neighborhood. All that stuff starts to really help pull people in and make sure that we have the best chance of marketing your home and getting people through it and maximizing interest. Here's a quick video for you. All right, so I just gave you a quick little teaser. I'm not going to make you sit through the whole video. The purpose of this one is to talk about marketing, but you get the idea of how that makes a big difference. When somebody sees that video, they get an idea of, oh, this is the yard, this is what's behind the home, this is what it looks like from um, the curb appeal, the driveway. All that stuff makes a huge difference in drawing somebody in. Okay, and then here we just have an example of some 2D floor plans. These make a big difference. They're often really requested. People are trying to get an idea of will the space work for them. We want serious buyers that are of interest, and this actually helps us find people that are actually more serious. Ultimately, we're trying to get as many offers as we can through. We don't necessarily want somebody who doesn't do their due diligence on their end, where they think that they want a space. Maybe they're interested in buying the space and then they realize it wouldn't work for them, and then they try to renege and it causes a bunch of problems there. So we want to make sure that we give them floor plans so that we get the best chance at having the best buyer, where it's the right fit, who's going to pay the most amount of money for the house because it's the right house for them. We want to make sure that we're bringing those through and we're having the best chance at actually working with those people. Okay, so the next thing my team does, we're talking about marketing exposure here. So again, maximizing exposure is the key towards getting the most amount of prospects, converting those prospects into leads, converting those leads into potential offers, and then finding the right buyer from there. So, of course, we put things on the MLS on the listing service. That means that they show up on Realtor.ca. We make sure that they're accessible through Google, and we also promote things on the Toronto Real Estate Board on top of any of the local boards throughout Ontario or in the areas that we service. So those are just within the search engines. Then we also put things on social media. So the cool thing with working with such a large team, and I'll get into this in a second, is that we have our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And the team has a channel. I personally have a channel, but so do each of our members. Each of our team members and people within our network. So one of the really neat things about working with such a big team is that you get way more value. So for example, if I have 2,000 followers and somebody else on my team has 2,000 followers and somebody else on my team has 2,000 followers, you can start to see that on a big team, when I have something that's listed or getting promoted, each and every person helps promote those. So that's one of the key differences there with having a large team versus a small single agent. You really get the multiple effect of that. Then you have each person, trying to help you get the most amount of exposure for your home to see if they have anybody within their database or social media or anyone that they might be working with or could potentially work with to see if they're able to bring them forward. Okay, and then we have open houses. So my team, we're big believers in open houses. We believe that it is our responsibility to the seller to give the most amount of effort that we can to get the most amount of exposure. The other benefit to open houses is that somebody on my team will do a much better job speaking about your property and marketing your property to a potential prospect, lead, or potential buyer than a lot of other agents will. Unfortunately, the other agents coming through, it's likely their first time seeing the property, and they may not know everything about the property. A lot of people are always rushed. They don't read all the notes. They don't see everything. As much as we try to facilitate that, oftentimes, they show up, they try to find the lockbox, they're running a bit behind, they get the door open, they try to look at the house as quick as they can, and then they leave. Whereas we want to try to create as much of an experience as we can, talk to them about the benefits of the home, help them envision themselves in the home, and make sure that we can find the right buyer for the home. So that's where having somebody from the team actually run the open house makes a big difference. And we really encourage other agents to send their clients through the open house so that we can really help their clients see if it's the right fit for them. Okay, the other thing here is buyer acquisition and database. So this is a big thing that makes us very unique from a lot of other teams and a lot of other agents in general, is because we have a very vast, large team. Each person, on top of their social media, has their own database with potential buyers and buyers within it, and we're constantly filling in that database. So there's a little bit of drop off, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but that database is always on a net growth path, meaning we have more people coming in than we do ever falling off that list, and it continually grows and grows and grows. For example, I have over 1,000 people within my database alone, not including my social media. That is just my database of buyers and sellers. So, again, if you have 40 people on a team, that's a very large database that we're able to work within to really promote a home. And then we always have new buyers coming in as well, where we can promote your home, have a buyer that's actually interested, try to acquire a buyer for that home, to see whether or not we're able to make something happen. So we're always promoting homes, bringing in buyers, and then we have a database of people looking for specific things that we're able to network within, and really advocate on your behalf. So now I'm going to move into some of the things that I personally spend a lot of time on and that I really try to focus on for my clients. Um, and the first thing I'm going to do is just talk about positioning the house using feature sheets. We just want to make sure we create an experience for any potential prospect that comes through the home. We want to make sure that they have a great experience with the home. There's this saying that people often don't remember information or a fact or an address, but they will remember a feeling. People remember how they felt. So if we can create a positive feeling or a positive experience, it's only to our benefit. So some of the things that we do to do that is we try to focus on a lot of the positives in the house. So this is having a more unique feature sheet. Some places don't do any feature sheets. Some people do really basic feature sheets. I specifically try to do a nicer feature sheet, something that really, showcases the home at its best. And then from there's also things like info packs and reports. If you're backing onto a golf course, if you live in a good school district, we want to make sure that we cover that. If you live in an area where there's great local restaurants, you're in a downtown core, or if you're in the countryside where you have a large acre property, or more, you have lots of greenery. If you're near trails, we want to make sure we showcase all of that stuff and we really highlight it. So this is where booklets, reports, and info packs make a big difference. I often preemptively send these to agents beforehand. As soon as they book a showing or they show any interest in the home, I send them everything so that they have it, so that we can, try to get it in the buyer's hands and get them excited about coming to see the home. Then if they come see the home and they haven't been sent it, I still make sure that everything's out and available for them when they come through, so that they have access to everything there, and we can try to, make the experience great. So on top of the staging, the photography, the feature sheets, we get them in and we can start to get that experience really going and getting them to see all the amazing things about the property. Okay, landing page. So this is something that I do for all of my clients. So one of the things, if you're running online ads and you're doing that, which I'll cover that into a second, you need somewhere to send them, and you need somewhere where you can send people to also try to capture their information. So it's one thing to put something in a newspaper. Back in the day, people would put something in a newspaper, try to get exposure, which is great. Nowadays, where 96% of people find their homes online, what we can do is actually send them to a landing page, which is a page specifically designed to promote your property. The goal is to feature your property, showcase your property, and then to also capture the contact of the person, so that then I can then reach out to them to see if they're a potential buyer. And then we do things like we might even create a unique URL if it's worth doing. It really depends if it's if something's a project where you have multiple homes or multiple properties. We do that sometimes for developers, or if it's just a really unique property where it's a luxury property or something like that. Sometimes we need a unique URL. URLs are pretty easy to do. It's actually pretty easy to do that. A lot of people don't do that, but it's something that we could easily do. The reason I say sometimes we do it with bigger projects is just because those projects are sometimes harder to find. It's harder to promote a large project on realtor.ca, so we might have to create a unique link for that. But for sometimes general properties, it's not as needed, but we can still always do it. It's pretty easy to do something like 500 Main Street. It's pretty easy to do. Okay, so the next thing is, like I just mentioned, paid online ads. So we have the landing page, something that's designed to showcase the home, somewhere where we can capture the person's information, and then I can follow up with them to try to find out if they're a qualified buyer, and we can try to get something going on. But we need somewhere to get those people in. We need a way of, a landing page is great, but we need people actually getting onto that landing page. We need that landing page to get exposure. So this is where online ads makes a big difference. So there's just several elements that make up an online ad, and there's different types of online ads. But I'm a big believer in using online ads to drive traffic and interest into a landing page. And then from there's different types of ads. So first, there's impressions, where we're just trying to get people to see the home and get exposure. Then there's the actual opportunity for getting people on the landing page, so that we can actually have the biggest chance or opportunity to capture their information. And then we have what's called retargeting. So anyone that actually went to the landing page and didn't put their information in, or somebody that looked at the ad and was interested, we want to make sure that they did show interest. It just may have not been the right timing. For example, they might have been going through something, went on the landing page, or stopped to look at the ad, but they were at work, and then their boss came around the corner and they quickly exited out. We want to make sure that we can get back in front of that person. So retargeting is a really cost-effective way of doing that. It just means that when somebody sees our ad or sees our landing page, we're able to then focus back on them and make sure that they see our ad multiple times. I try to get them to see our stuff at least 13 more times on average. That just seems to be the number where it increases our chances to the optimal amount, where we have the best chance of actually recapturing their information if they didn't do it the first time. Okay, so this is just quickly talking about buyer leads, because I've talked a little bit about the importance of that and the exposure, and it's all about that, just so that you understand where leads come from and why it's important. Because a lot of agents have a 3-step listing process. They you sign up with them, they put a sign in the ground, they put it on an MLS, and that's it. So we want to make sure that you're getting the most amount of exposure. So if we put on MLS, you'll get on Realtor.ca. So Realtor.ca on average is good for about 50,000 views. This depends on the home, the time of year, and things like that. I'm kind of averaging out here, but about 50,000 views. So that's the exposure that you get from there. Realtor.ca also gives you this thing called reverse prospecting. So it means that other agents within your board or organization, if they have their client set up on a search and that person's client decided to look at your property and mark it as a favorite or show that they were interested in it, I can actually follow up with that agent to say, hey, one of your clients showed some interest in this property. So that's pretty unique. And we generally get anywhere between 10 to 50. We call them HVBs, high value buyers, because there's a great chance that, that we can actually get them through and make something happen there. So that's really all we get from the MLS system, which is good. It's good, but there's so much more that we can tap into beyond that. So for example, our team social media, 20 agents, which we have substantially more than 20 agents at this point. If they had 1,500 followers, there's a 30,000 person exposure just there, just by working with somebody on a large team where they share within the team. You can increase your exposure, almost double your exposure there. Working with a team like ours, you'd be doubling your exposures in terms of what you'd be getting from Realtor.ca. Then we have actual paid advertising. So again, I focus a lot on impressions, landing page views, and retargeting. So just impressions, we can get in front of double the number of people in terms of the people that might see it. From that 100,000, we're able to generally drive about 1,500 more people to the landing page to increase our chance of actually getting prospective buyers and getting their contact information so that I'm able to work those leads. And then we have retargeting. I generally can find about 50,000 people that are worth retargeting. That can come from our database, from the people in terms of the impressions, and people that looked at the landing page but decided not to put in their contact information. Okay, and then next is collaborate. So this is really important, and it's that we work with buyer agents. So it's very common that I'll show a home and I'm actually not able to get a hold of that agent, or it's very challenging for me to get a hold of the agent who's actually selling the home. So whenever I have a home that I'm looking to sell and market, I want to make sure that I collaborate as much as possible with that buyer agent, the person working with the buyer, and that I'm doing as much as I can to facilitate them bringing us an offer, because that's always in our favor. So things that make a big difference here: showing instructions, actually providing them with some instructions. Where's the lockbox? If it's a hard place to find because it has a unique entrance or it's a little bit hidden, how do they get in? What's the address? Where's the lockbox located? What's the lockbox code? Do you need more than one type of lockbox? Because sometimes that happens. And then from there, it's actually following up with them, calling them in advance. Hey, did you get the email? I sent you showing instructions. Just confirm that they got it. Call them afterwards. How did the showing go? Can you provide me some feedback? And then also making sure that they have all the documentation that they would need to be informed when they show the house, or if there's any interest in the house, to make sure that they have all access to all those documents in the event that there is interest and they want to bring an offer afterwards. We want to make it as easy as possible for those buyer agents to work with their buyers to determine if this is the right house and to consider bringing us an offer. Okay, and then we have negotiating. So I'm just going to touch on this really quickly. So on top of on top of all the marketing, so what happens often here is that we have buyer leads come through the website. We have other agents that are showing the home, and there's a lot of conversations that go on here. And we want to make sure that we're always positioning ourselves in a good, strong spot. So this is where just making sure, even though you may not be negotiating an offer, there's still negotiating and positioning that needs to be had during all of your conversations to make sure that you maximize the opportunity, that you can get the best price from the best buyer, and we find the best person, and we can make a win-win for everyone. And it's important to remember that conversions are a part of the marketing, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Is on top of getting everyone through the house and maximizing interest, we also make sure that we have the best chance of speaking to those people and converting them and making a win-win for everyone. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to touch on here is just the EXP marketing. I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the stuff that my brokerage does that's pretty unique and a little bit different. So we use a system called BrokerBay. BrokerBay just allows me to network with other agents. So if they show the house, it gives me their contact information. I can send them communications and do a bunch of different things through there, which is great. It also gets posted on there as well, which is really, really nice. The other thing is we have this internal posting board. So this is called the haves and wants that we have at EXP. So for example, if I have something that I'm looking for a buyer, or if I have a listing that's coming soon. So often, if I'm working with somebody to sell their home, we might have a period before it actually comes to the market where I want to do some pre-marketing. And this is a great opportunity for pre-marketing because I can actually post it in the haves wants and say, hey, this is what I have coming to market. This is some information on it. This is kind of what we're looking for. And I can actually get people preemptively interested in the property within our brokerage. And we're the fastest growing brokerage in history at the moment, and growing more and more every day. So it's a pretty unique opportunity there. And the next thing here is the IDX feed. So this is about collaborate share for maximum exposure. So whenever an agent has a website, that website that has homes on it has to get those homes from somewhere, and it comes through this thing called the IDX feed. It's just a data feed into the website of homes that are currently on market. Now, a brokerage has to agree to share that information. So, for example, on my website, you can see homes that we have listed within our brokerage, but also homes that are listed by other brokerages. So that way you don't have to bounce around between a whole bunch of different websites, and it increases the chance that you can find what it is that you're looking for instead of having to go all over the place. So we share information with other brokerages, meaning whether if a buyer is working with Remax, if a buyer is working with Coldwell, if the buyer is working with Keller Williams, they're still able to see your home if it's listed with our brokerage, which is great because that means you get the most amount of exposure. Now it's not uncommon for some brokerages to not share information because they're trying to keep more things internal. We believe that maximum exposure is to your benefit, and we want to make sure that it's about you, the seller, not about us trying to keep everything internal and kind of hoard everything. We very much have an abundance mentality where it's all about getting things out there to maximize your exposure. And that's it. That's all I want to talk about today for marketing. It's already running on almost 25 minutes here, so I'm just going to give you a quick wrap up. Again, I didn't touch on the inner workings of some of this stuff. This is just some of the services and things that we recommend and that we use when it comes to marketing a home and maximizing exposure, giving you the best chance to find the buyer within the market who's willing to pay the most for your property. And make sure that we can have everything align up and create win-win situations for both you and the buyer. That's when things tend to be the most successful, is when it's the right buyer and the right seller that come together to get a deal done. I hope you find that helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And then depending on where you're at currently within your potential selling cycle, or if you're just looking for some extra information about marketing, let me know, and we can always work out a roadmap in terms of what some of these strategies might look like for you and how it would all get implemented and how long we need to implement some of these as well. Staging takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you might have furniture that needs to be moved, and we need to do some logistics around that. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.